What's up YouTube? This is going to be your guide on how to use Mesprit in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I'll be providing competitive movesets and some fun meme movesets too. If there's a Pokemon you'd like to see me cover, put it below in the comment section. If you enjoy these, they help you out, drop a like on the video, and let's get into it. So overall, its stats are pretty solid. You've got like 105 in everything but health and speed. So it can perform as a sweeper or a good support Pokemon too when using it. So we got just a mono psychic Pokemon, and it's got levitate as its ability like all the other ones do. So let's have a look at a sweeping set to begin with here. So it does learn Nasty Plot like all of them do. So we're going to have a Nasty Plot sweeping set as our first sort of suggestion here. So looking at Nasty Plot, Psyshock or Psychic, depending on what you like. Psyshock gives it actually something you can do to special defensive walls, right? Sometimes if you've got Psychic on there, if you've got Psychic or Psychic Noise on there, you'll get walled by a special defensive Pokemon. So it can either be one or the two there, whatever you want to run. Psychic Noise isn't all that bad either. It does stop that healing for a couple of turns, but I find that one works a little bit better on support style sets. That's my personal choice anyway. Draining Kiss is a great move there for any dark type Pokemon. Plus it can give you some health back there, and it works well with the big root item. So they stack nicely together. And Thunderbolt is just a bit of coverage here on it. So just a coverage moves against any bulky water type Pokemon and stuff like that. So it also works well with Terra Electric, because with Terra Electric and Thunderbolt, you get that extra power, and you've also got no weaknesses at all. And it's quite a naturally bulky Pokemon, so it's only going to be taking neutral hits. And it's going to have to take a very, very big neutral hit to one-shot this. So that's why I feel it works pretty nicely there with Terra Electric and, of course, Thunderbolt. EV spread here, special attack and speed and timid nature. That works pretty well all around for a Nasty Plot set. Some other terrors you could put on there if you don't want to run Thunderbolt. You've got options of Steel. Any ones that have a weakness to ground always works well with Levitate. So that's quite good too. You could probably keep Thunderbolt on there, or you could put. Just trying to think anything else that would work on there. You might be able to slide Substitute onto there if you want, because Substitute and Draining Kiss is pretty good, and Sub and Nasty Plot works well too. You do have a bit of a weakness then to Steel. That's the only thing. You are going to get walled by Steel, so that's why Thunderbolt isn't bad to hit Steel types with, but you could still get around it eventually if you had enough Nasty Plots up there. So that's just another option that you could do there. But Thunderbolt's pretty good just for a coverage move, I would say. Another Terra you could use on there, I would go Fairy too, because Fairy's pretty good on it. So Terra, Fairy, and Draining Kiss. So any like bug moves, dark type moves, ghost moves, it's going to be a good Terra, defensive Terra. And it's pretty good offensive Terra too with Draining Kiss. So you can heal yourself up. And if you've got a lot of, say you've got a lot of boost up already, that's going to be healing you a lot. Another move you can use on there too is Mystical Power. Mystical Power and Nasty Plot are pretty good. So Mystical Power is just going to boost your special attack by one stage every time you use it. So you could get a Nasty Plot up and then use that, and it's going to be hitting pretty hard. And that's pretty good coverage there. Draining Kiss and Mystical Power. Pretty damn good coverage. So if you've got another Pokemon on your team that can deal with Steel-type Pokemon, that's going to be excellent, right? This could easily sweep like mid-late game, you know? So if you get rid of that. Or you could give it a Terra, maybe like Terra Blast on there. And you could do something like, I'm just trying to think, Terra Fire would be not all that bad, because you wouldn't have a ground weakness. You'd be able to hit bug Pokemon, and you'd be able to hit Steel Pokemon too. So that's another option of running that. You do open yourself up to a lot more weaknesses though. So, it's depending on what your team really needs and where you're going to put it. So that's sort of my first set there for Mesprit. Looking at our next set here, we've got Choice Specs or Choice Scarf. It does have the same sort of EV spread. We're still looking at speed and special attack EVs, timid nature. But it's got Trick. So Trick's a pretty good move with choice items. So you can cripple like any support or just bulky stalling Pokemon. And you can free yourself of the item. Whether that's Choice Specs or Choice Scarf, both work well on it, in my opinion. So we've got Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Ball, and Trick. I feel like that gives it the best coverage. And with a choice item, especially Choice Scarf, I'd be going with the highest base power moves there. I would say Mystical Power would be very good there too, instead of Psychic. So, if you're trapped in, you could lock yourself into that move and you could keep boosting it up. So that'd be very, very good. So Mystical Power, Dazzling Gleam for any, your common weaknesses, and Shadow Ball there for any like Ghost type Pokemon or opposing Psychic type Pokemon, and Trick just to get rid of the item. That could work well in doubles as well as singles there. So you got a couple of options. I've done Terra Fairy, so that would be good for doubles, and it'd be good for singles as well. And I'd go with Terra Fairy. I think that works nicely on that. You could do Terra Psychic too. I don't know. I quite like Terra Fairy on there because it's good offensively and defensively on a mono Psychic type Pokemon. I feel like that works really, really well. That's pretty much it there for those like more single style sets. Not saying you couldn't run them in doubles, but they would definitely be good in singles. You could do more of a defensive. There are like defensive sets you can run with like Stealth Rock and stuff if you're playing like singles. I might build one of them in the end there, but which it can do pretty well. It's got some good bulk about it. But let's have a look at some doubles now, pure sort of double sets. Okay, so this set's kind of interesting. So Mesprit can run a anti-Trick Room set. I've run this a couple of times. It's a bit of fun. I'm not saying there's other Pokemon that can't do the role better, but it is pretty interesting. So Trick Room is good, a move that's used a lot in doubles. And if you've got Imprison on there, you can go Imprison. Now, Dazzling Gleam is used a bit in doubles too. So you can Imprison Trick Room and Dazzling Gleam. So this means the opponent will not be able to use Trick Room and Dazzling Gleam, which is, you'll seal them. So they'll have to swap out. So that's a really good at stopping some of those Trick Room teams. So this would work well on a fast offensive Pokemon team, right? So that would work very well. And I've given it sweeping EVs still. So Dazzling Gleam, Terra Fairy, and Mystical Power. I gave that Mental Herb because you want to get that Imprison off there just to stop you getting taunted and stuff. You could put like Covert Cloak and stuff on there too. That could be useful, say, just to stop you getting flinched and stuff before you can use Imprison. So that's another one that could work. Terra Fairy is just good with Dazzling Gleam. I would leave that at that sort of thing. So that's more of an offensive set there. But you've got like a little niche there, a kind of an interesting niche there with Imprison and Trick Room, stopping that getting set up. So definitely good on a real speedy offensive team. Let's have a look at the next one. So I want to make a little bit more of a tanky set here. So it actually gets Reflect and Light Screen, which is pretty good. And it has some really, really impressive bulk here. So the EV spread, you could probably run this a couple of ways. I'll show a couple of ways. So this one's a health and a speed set. So we've got Timid Nature. So Reflect, Light Screen, Light Clay, making that go 8 turns. We've got Healing Wish, which is a good move on Mesprit. You can pass that Healing Wish on to. And what it'll do, it'll heal the next Pokemon that's not fully healed. So it can be delayed if you send out another Pokemon. And it works well too at swapping it up. Say you've got like an Incineroar or something like that. You can swap that in or Intimidate Pokemon, a Fake Out Pokemon. And then you can use Parting Shot and stuff after that. So it can work well in those strategies. And also U-Turn as well. So you can use U-Turn, set your screens up. And when you feel like, oh, this Pokemon is useless now, it sort of set its screens up. U-Turn's not really going to serve much purpose. You just sack it off, and then you heal your more sort of hyper-offensive Pokemon up there, or your offensive Pokemon that can work well under the screen. So that's sort of how you play that. Light Clay Levitate. I did Terra Normal on this because I thought Terra Normal actually isn't all that bad for ghost type moves. Say, you know, like Astral Barrage from Shadow Rider. You could go Terra Normal and set up a light screen. That could work there too. EV spread, apart from if you don't want to run it speedy, you could do like a split defenses. So you could do, let's say 156. We're not really worried about speed. I could do Sassy. You could do something like a build like 156 speed, 100 in special defense. You can even sort of drop it back. Like, it depends how close you want your EVs to be and what sort of hits you want your Pokemon to be able to, you know, to be able to live as well. I think that's important too, if you're really specifically looking for that. But you could specifically do EVs that are very close to each other to have like equal bulk on each side for reflecting light screen if you wanted to as well. So that's more of a tanky build that's going to be able to live a lot more hits than the other one at the cost of losing speed. You actually could drop its special attack there if you wanted to as well, because it doesn't exactly have a special attacking move. But if you wanted, say, something like Mystical Power on there, then it might be better to drop its speed, or, you know, or drop its attack, because U-turn's not really meant for damage. It's only really meant for, you know, just scouting and stuff. So yeah, that's another way of running it. You could also go with the, you know, the same terrors that I mentioned, Fairy, Steel. They're gonna, you know, Electric. Those ones are gonna work well too. And with the Levitate, you can always couple it with Pokemon that learn the move Earthquake as well, so that can be, you know, useful. Alright, another set I want to mention here, of course, on Mesprit is going to be Stored Power. This is going to be more useful in singles, I would say, but I'm not saying you couldn't use it in doubles, but you'd need some, you know, very good support with it, like Follow Me, or at least Life Dew, or something along those lines, why the Mesprit sets up. So, Stored Power. So, it's got pretty much everything it needs for it, to be perfectly honest. So, Terra Poison is another good Terra as well. I don't think I mentioned that already. It works very well on sets that have recovery and they're tanky, because it can't be simply Poison. And of course, Poison doesn't have a lot of weaknesses as well, especially when you take out ground, right, with Levitate. So we've got Calm Mind and Stored Power, which is obviously a good combination. And we've got Draining Kiss there for recovery. And Thunder Wave on there as well. So Thunder Wave can create a setup for your Mesprit. You can also slow down a really fast Pokemon too, and you might get an extra turn or two to get some more Calm Mind boost up there, and that can change a lot of things too. So health and defense, Bold Nature, it's going to be very, very tanky, and then Calm Mind away and set up and sweep from there. Obviously, you're going to want to do that once a lot of the counters are out the way. Say, I know you've got Draining Kiss, but you don't want to try and set this up in front of a Dark-type Pokemon or a Bug-type Pokemon unless you go Terra Poison right away. So it's just when to bring it in is the right thing. Get rid of the counter and then send it in. Or at least get a Calm Mind up, and then you can go for a Terra and that sort of thing, right? You could give it another move than Thunder Wave too if you don't think that really works on the set. I don't mind it in singles because it can allow you to get set up, and sometimes a hyper offensive Pokemon will try and come in and you can Thunder Wave on the swap and paralyze them. That can work as well. So there are a couple of you know, extra things. You could do some more hyper specific stuff like Key Berry on there. Key Berry is going to boost up your defense even more. And a common move, Knockoff, well, Knockoff is only going to do half its, you know, damage then, because you won't have an item. Another great way to get around, you know, a common Dark type move and stuff like that. So, you know, another way to run it, and that also builds into the Stored Power. So I'd say Key Berry actually works best on this set. It actually builds into it the best. So yeah, another way of running. You could do Terra Steel on this too. Because it is prone to being toxic, especially in singles, it is prone to being poisoned by toxic. So yeah, I'd run Steel or Poison if that was me. Unless you put something on there like Rest, but I don't know, I probably wouldn't put Rest on there. If you've got another one you could try, it does get Pain Split. But if you want Pain Split, you do a build like this. I would do defense and special defense. Don't worry about health. And then you put like the last 4 into speed or whatever, or special attack, one of the two. Not going to make too much of a difference. But yeah, that's how I do it, because obviously Pain Split works best if you've got less health. So that would definitely work very, very well with Mesprit and make it very, very tanky. So another way to run Mesprit with stored power. All right, we got a PIMPNITE special here, and I'm going to go over some some doubles and some strategy, some partners, some a lot of stuff like that in a sec. But we always like to do at least one fun set. So here we go. We got a physical Mesprit. So we got max attack and max speed. Not that this attack stat is bad. The reason people use specials is because specials got more options, right? It's not like you've got an easy way. It's not like you've got a sword dance to boost up its attack and stuff like that. You've got Calm Mind and Nasty Plot on the special side, and you've got a special stab move that boosts its special attack every time you use that. You don't have that on the physical side. The best you've got is like Zen Headbutt, which is a shaky move as it is, right? So we've got I thought it would be fun to give it Iron Tail because it does actually learn this move. Copycat, you can copycat the last move that you use. You might be able to copycat a Sword Dance or a physical move. Drain Punch for any Steel type Pokemon, then Dark type Pokemon and normal types. And you got Zen Headbutt for flinching and a Psychic Stab as well. Terra type Steel, which is going to work in with Iron Tail. We got that Metal Coat for the extra power. And that's going to work in with Levitate as well. So an absolute banger of a set. Give it a shot. And of course, Iron Tail drops the defense. 30% chance to drop the defense. So you can spam that and go for Drain Punch. A true PIMPNITE special set. I think I might have used this at some point. It was pretty fun to use, but obviously nowhere near as good as the other sets. Very, very gimmicky, but fun. All right, let's have a look now at some partners and stuff like that, and some some counters, I guess you could say. So firstly, let's talk about, counter is pretty good. So there's a lot of good counters for this. Any dark type Pokemon are going to give it a lot of problems. I would say King Gambit is definitely especially a good one there, because you don't really have a lot to hit that with outside of like a fighting move. A fairy move is still going to be neutral to it, and you're going to need a lot of boost up to feint it, whereas it's got powerful moves like Iron Head and Kotal Cleave and stuff like that. So that's anything like that is going to be a problem. Any dark type Pokemon that fit into that category. I would say ghost type Pokemon are another problem too. Unless they've got a bit of a weakness to fairy, depending on their type, but something like Cerulege would cause you a lot of problems, as would Dragapult. Dragapult has to watch out for a Terra Fairy though, but ghost type Pokemon are an issue too, for sure. Another one that can be a problem, a Steel type Pokemon. Say Goldengo, that's such a good counter to a lot of Pokemon, but that's a good counter too, because the problem about this is if you try and Terra Fairy, not that you'd Terra Fairy against a Goldengo, but if you Terra Fairy against something else, then Goldengo could still come in and use Steel type moves on you, and also Shadow Ball, Make It Rain and stuff like that. So it has lots of good things to use. That's probably one of the best counters against that type of Pokemon. So yeah, any real strong wall breakers like I don't know, trying to think like Water Spout or Eruption. Oh no, I'm trying to think of some really, like let's say Typhlosion. Let's say Typhlosion. So any really powerful moves like Eruption. Not that it wouldn't use its Ghost move. I'm just using an example. Like really powerful, like Choice Specs Eruption, things like that. They could really bust through it and do lots of damage. Yeah, that's a basic sort of thing. What it is actually would be weak to. This Pokemon works well with like hyper offensive mons as well. So in doubles, you could have like Landorus Therian form, and any of its ground type moves and such like that too are not going to affect. They're not going to affect this either. And if you ran these, say you had this like little Trick Room in Prison set, you could stop these speedier Pokemon, falling victim to like the slow Trick Room Pokemon. So it's not all that bad, and that can sort of support alongside it with that too. So alternatively, you could run it with Trick Room too, and that would suit Pokemon like Rillaboom. So there are some other, some other options there too. Heatran's not, you could have that. Heatran works well with Rillaboom, and that will work well with Mesprit as well. So they sort of all cover each other's, weaknesses. In singles, you've got that big, ground weakness. So you've got a levitate Pokemon, it's always quite handy to have that as a swap in. Some other counters. I would say Chi-Yu would be a nasty counter as well. Beads of Ruin and a Dark Pulse, that's going to wreck Mesprit. And then you've got, of course, you've got stuff like Urshifu as well. It's a single, well, even like Rapid Strike would probably cause us some problems too. But obviously, it has to watch out for fairy moves like Draining Kiss will get completely destroyed. So I would say King Gambit and Chi-Yu are more counters for that. But that just gives you a general idea of some counters and some Pokemon that would work well with it. Fire types aren't too bad as well because you've got that Levitate, so that works pretty well with them. I mean, Iron Moth wouldn't be too bad because it's got like a quad weakness to ground, so you could run that alongside that. And then that could get rid of like the bug type Pokemon, so that's just another example of a Pokemon that would work well with it. Another set I was thinking too for Mesprit, this is definitely more geared towards singles, I would say. More definitely, it can work well as like some other good moves like Stealth. You've got like Stealth Rock. Try and think of a standard like set that would be used here. Stealth Rock Encore would work very well, and you could give it like Mystical Power. Just a bulky defensive wall would work quite good on it too. Like more so for singles, right? So you've got Stealth Rock Encore and Mystical Power. That would work well. What's the generic item you put on there? Like Leftovers. And then you could have something like Terra Steel or Terra Fairy on there. One of those would work well. This is more for singles play, for sure. And then, say, like Healing Wish on there. That's probably just a generic single set that's pretty could work well with it. Pretty easy to come up with. But, yeah, and just set your Stealth Rocks up and spam Mystical Power. If you don't want Encore, you could put U-Turn on there as well. So that's another option. Or you could even do Knockoff on there too, just to get rid of items. More of a support style set. Or you could even have like Psychic Noise on there. That's another good one too on support style Pokemon. Yeah, let's have a quick look at all its moves here. I always like to do this every video. I'm pretty sure I've gone over everything for it. Yeah, it can be a baton pass Pokemon if you're sort of playing that rule set. I like to have my guides open for every sort of rule set, not just for one. Yep, you've got plenty of options there to pass on stats. We've gone over Healing Wish, can be good. Screens, we've gone over that. Nasty Plot, we've sort of done that. Works well on a bulky set. We've got Pain Split. It can be a Rest Sleep Talker, but you could do like Rest Sleep Talk, Calm Mind, and then, I don't know, Mystical Power or something like that. But I don't think it's one move you're going to get walled too easily. So it might be better using Rest and Chesto Berry. Can be a Trick Room Pokemon too. Can set them up or stop them. Ally Switch isn't a bad move on there either. On these more double sets, you could run that. Maybe instead of U-Turn, you could put Ally Switch on here instead. That could be interesting. It could sponge the moves while you've got your Pokemon setting up behind it. That could definitely work. Could see that working very well. Where were we? Yeah, then it's got some more other gimmicky moves like Copycat and stuff. It does have Helping Hand. Helping Hand could work, very nicely behind this sort of set here as well. Helping Hand behind screens is going to be very helpful. You could definitely boost up your more offensive, hyper-offensive Pokemon there. And you got like stuff like Skill Swap too. You might be able to Skill Swap it, Levitate to a Pokemon that has a weakness to ground, or a Pokemon that has a more useless ability like Slaking or something like that. So it does have that option too for that. But that's mostly its status moves there. That's its physical moves, which are pretty average. You've got some special moves. We went over Dazzling Gleam. You might be able to try it on a snow team with Blizzard, but you could be very bulky. You might have to use it with like alongside Ninetales or Lola or something. We've got some other psychic moves there, but probably the best ones to run on there are going to be Mystical Power, Psychic Noise more for supportive sets, Psychic or Psy-Shot. Stored Power is good with a Calm Mind. We sort of went over that. Thunderbolt Thunder is interesting for like Terra type Electric. Charge Beam, nah, there's no real point there. Maybe if you had a Terra Electric, it might do a bit more, but you're probably better off just using Calm Mind. Yeah, and then you've got Ice Beam too. I didn't mention Ice Beam. Ice Beam could be a good coverage move on the Choice Spec set too if you don't want to run Shadow Ball or Trick. You know, that's something else you could do there too. And then we got its physical moves. There's not too much there. You're probably only going to... Most people are going to be using U-Turn if they want to use one of the physical moves, or Knock Off. They seem to be the most viable moves on there. You could do like an Assault Vest punching set with all the elemental punches. That could be fun. The problem is you just don't have a way to boost his attack at all. That was my thing, and there's nothing... You couldn't give it like Swagger or Mirror Herb or anything like that. Sadly, I would have, suggested that. But you might be able to do like an Assault Vested one with like all the punches. That could be a real pain to feint after a while. But anyway, that is the end of Mesprit. Mesprit, it's not a bad Pokemon. It can run offensive and bulky support style too. Out of the Pixies, I'd say it's sort of like Azelf was a more glass cannon one. This is like the sort of the combination of both, and then you've got Uxie, which is like more true support, like full-on support. So it's sort of in the middle, I would say, for them. But anyway, that is the last Pixie. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you do want to use Mesprit, I do have another moveset guide upload a little bit later on, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.